it's a privilege and honor to have somebody who's regarded as the transformation man of cricket. He transformed IPL, and it is $1 billion or $1 trillion maybe because of this man. And he transformed New Zealand cricket as captain of New Zealand. And today New Zealand beats India regularly, all because of the efforts that this man put in as captain and built a strong side. Welcome to this chat, Baz, Brendon, McCullum. Privilege and honor to have you with us. How are you doing?
Hello, Chandresh. Well, first of all, I think you've definitely overplayed my hand there. I think I've been lucky enough to be able to make a bit of an impact on the game, both I guess nationally and to a lesser degree internationally. But it takes a lot of people to be able to make things happen. And we've been very fortunate in New Zealand that we've been able to pull together some really good teams over the last decade or so. We've had some wonderful players all operating at the same time, which has been able to obviously allows New Zealand cricket to be a lot more formidable on the world stage than maybe what our population would suggest. But so there's that, and then obviously the IPL side of things. I loved my time as a player. I still can't work out why I was the one who had the opportunity to bat first on the first ever night of IPL. And obviously what unfolded from there was an immense privilege and very humbling, and it certainly changed my life as well. But all's good, mate. Where we are, Chandresh, we're just sitting, we're waiting, we're sort of anticipating that the CPL will go ahead in the next few weeks, all going well, and obviously then who knows, maybe the IPL on the back of that, and it could be quite an exciting time to be a cricket fan, and in my role as a coach now of both Trinidad and also Kolkata. Obviously pretty keen to get back to work as well.
How easy or difficult is it for you as somebody who was in the thick of action to suddenly be seen as a coach? Because I can't imagine you as a coach sitting on the dugout taking notes and making notes and talking to players. Would you feel the urge to go onto the field yourself?
No, I don't actually. And I think that was the way that I kind of played my cricket in the time that I left. I had no regrets. I was ready to move on to the next chapter. I think I got the most out of myself as a player, and I was very privileged to have played for close to 2 decades on the professional game. So I had achieved everything I really wanted to in the game, and once you can do that, and then you know that you've given it everything, then you can turn that page, close that chapter, and move on to the next stage of your life. And I was very fortunate that the Night Riders rang, and Venki Mysore rang me and said, we want you to be Trinidad and Kolkata coach. And I was very humbled and privileged to get that phone call from Venki, and obviously the support of Shah Rukh and Jay. And I'm really looking forward to it. I love the challenge of it. I think coaching is probably just an extension of captaincy, but it's more working with all of the various personalities and characters within the side to try and get a cohesive team to kind of try and perform on the field. And I think sometimes as a captain, you can do that by leading by example, whereas as a coach, you've got to look at what are the strengths and weaknesses of everyone and try and find out what motivates them and work with what you've got. And I'm very lucky that in the 2 teams that I'm coaching, I've got 2 very good leaders in Corin Pollard at Trinidad and Dinesh Karthik at Kolkata. So different personalities, but I think they work really well, and they'll hopefully be able to prosper this season with some success for both teams.
So life comes a full circle for you. You started off with the IPL at Kolkata Knight Riders and coming back as a coach for Kolkata Knight Riders. That night in 2008, when did it sink in that you've done something remarkable or something out of the ordinary?
Well, it was probably when Sourav Ganguly Dada came up to me and he said, "You realise this has changed your life forever." And I kind of knew what he meant at the time, but I didn't anticipate just quite what it really meant. I say it all the time that it literally changed my life. The opportunities that I've had beyond that, and the chances that I've been able to take because of that one night in Bangalore was something I'll never forget, and feel incredibly lucky to have had that honour. I'm pleased that I was able to do something which has helped launch a tournament, which is now the most successful domestic tournament in the world, probably the most successful tournament in the world when it comes to cricket. And we know how much the game means to the people of India, and we know how much India means to the cricketing world too. And I think to have played a small part in that, it's pretty cool. So I feel very lucky. But it would have been that moment that Dada said to me, "Your life's changed forever."
And a year later, when you scored 158 again, I'm sure there would not have been that many razzmatazz attached to it as it was that night in 2008.
No, that's right. I was lucky enough to score 158, which seems to be the magic number for Birmingham Bears in the T20 Blast in the UK. But certainly a different feel to that one. I probably went unnoticed, to be fair. Whereas the one that night in Bangalore, I think every cricketer who was involved in the sport at that point in time was watching that night and seeing what was going to unfold. And I guess that's why a lot of people are able to recall it.
And you score 158 in T20 cricket, and you go from there to face 559 deliveries, score 302 in 775 minutes against India. How does one change? What changes in your mind when you're doing that? Because it's mind-boggling that someone who can score 158 at breakneck speed in T20 cricket can bat for so long in a test match and save a test match.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I'm not really sure. I guess I was captain of New Zealand at the time when we'd won the first test against India, who were the number one team in the world at that time. We needed to make a big statement. We were going okay as a cricket team, but we needed to make a really big statement, and this was our opportunity to beat the number one test team in the world. And when we won that first test in Auckland, we went to Wellington and we were under an immense amount of pressure. And I don't know, again, I don't know why I was the one that was lucky enough to be presented with that opportunity. And we had a mountain to climb, but through shared New Zealand tenacity, BJ Watling and myself were able to manufacture a partnership which gave us some hope. And then Jimmy Neesham, on his test debut, and the youth and exuberance of someone coming in who didn't probably understand the size of the task in front of him because of just a lack of experience, played a sublime innings as well. So it's really hard to understand, but I guess from one of the things I was most proud of through my cricketing career was not just my longevity, obviously playing 101 tests without missing one, but it was the ability to be able to change game plans. And one in T20 cricket, you're probably always known as a crash and bash type of player, but I was able to get a triple century and 3 double centuries, and those things don't hand them out. You've got to go and earn them, and that's one of the things I was most proud of, is that I was able to have the mental fortitude and discipline to be able to perform not just through longevity, but also through some skill and some application.
And 2014 is a year you will never forget because you scored so many runs. You hit 33 test sixes in 2014, the most by somebody in a calendar year. You were the first New Zealand batsman to score a triple hundred and 2 more double hundreds. And you have more double hundreds than any New Zealand player. I remember that knock at Sharjah, for example. You were in some mood. I was there that day at Sharjah when you scored that, played that knock against Pakistan. Was that the best phase of your career that year?
Yeah, 100% was, Chandresh. It was that was a year I kind of just let go, if I'm being honest. I think as a cricketer, you're so driven and so motivated to achieve success that sometimes you can become quite tense and you can restrict your own natural abilities and progression because you want it too much. And I think that year, and it probably coincided with the obviously unfortunate death of Phil Hughes and that timing around that test match in Sharjah, and it just kind of, I kind of let myself go and just try and enjoy the game for what it was, which is it's a game, and you're playing with a group of brothers and you're trying to achieve some special things on the international stage, but you shouldn't be paralyzed by fear. You should and relish the opportunity and relish the challenge and go out there and play the game the way that you loved watching the game as a kid. And I used to love watching Viv Richards was my idol, and as was Alan Border, two very different players. But the swagger and the confidence of Viv Richards and his aggressive stroke play, and then coupled with the tenacity and determined leadership of Alan Border, they were two guys who really resonated with me. And so when I was a kid, I wanted to see the game played in a certain way. And I remember one night I said to myself, I need to play like this. This is what I have one opportunity on the world stage to live my dreams. So go out there and do that in the best way that you know how. And that's why I started trying to play a lot more free, but also try and couple it with some smart tactics and some discipline as well. And I think the results definitely flowed on from there. And that 2014 was a year I'll never forget. And it was an amazing 12 months lead into what then would be another life-changing moment, which was captaining my country in a home World Cup in 2015. So it was just an amazing couple of years. Chandresh, it was playing with a group of mates who will be mates forever. And we achieved some pretty awesome things. And I think we got the respect of world cricket for how we went about our cricket, not just how we played, but also the way we carried ourselves. And yeah, there are times I'll never forget.
Last few questions. Your captaincy was remarkable. I've been speaking to a few of your players who you captained, and reading Kane Williamson and the others talk about the kind of impact you had on the team. Kane Williamson said that you transformed the way they thought. Colin Munro has similar thoughts about you. What was your philosophy as captain? Because you played for a very long time under a captain like Stephen Fleming. What was your philosophy that led to you being unbeaten at home in Test cricket? You led them to the final of the World Cup. It started in dramatic fashion, but you really changed the mindset. What was your mindset when you were captaining New Zealand?
Yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint, but I think first and foremost, my leadership style was learnt under Stephen Fleming. He's an incredible friend of mine. I consider him a great mentor, and he's always, even throughout the time I was captaining New Zealand, he was always an ear that I could he would lend to me, and I was always able to ring him up. I used him a lot throughout that period just to bounce ideas off, and probably the benefit of him being out of the game as well, it kind of his sense of clarity and the way that he delivers his messages was always something I was able to take a lot of confidence out of, and he gave me the confidence to be the leader that I became, and that's that in the end all I wanted to do was be a representation of myself, be the best person that I could be care about my team deeply, not just on the field but off the field, look after one another, understand what people are going through in their lives, because they come in at the age of 20 normally, and they'll leave the game roughly around 35. Those are the years of tremendous development in people's lives, and they'll they meet partners, and they have kids, and their life grows up, and you've got to understand that everyone's going through different stuff at different times, and cricket can sometimes be the most important thing, and sometimes it might not be, but you still got to get up and try and get a performance as a team. And so it's understanding all of that stuff. If you understand what's going on in people's lives, and you're authentic with it, and you care about them, then getting buy-in is easy, because they know that you have their best interests at heart, and they know that you'll have their back regardless. So that when you then ask them to do something tactically, then they totally buy into it. And we had a group of guys who got it completely. It wasn't always plain sailing either, but we had to make a few changes along the way, and we ended up, it sounds a bit corny, a bit of a metaphor, but we got the right people in the right seats on the bus heading in the right direction. And I was lucky enough to be the one who was driving that bus, along with Mike Heston, the coach, and Mike Sandel, the manager. And we just had a tremendous amount of guys who believed in what we were doing. And I think what we've seen post that era as well is a team that still has that same core belief within them, and understanding, and probably a little bit of a similar reflection of what we had, but it's morphed into Kane Williamson's side, and he's taken it, and he's done a tremendous job with that team, along with his senior players, and I think their best years are in front of them, to be honest. I think they could achieve anything the next couple of years on the back of what's happened in the last 6-7 years under two different regimes.
And the 2015 final, was that difficult to handle?
Oh, look, it would have been nice if we had won the World Cup, but it actually didn't matter if that makes any sense. Yes, it would have been lovely to have said that you're a World Cup winner and you're the captain that lifted it, and the country would have had one big party. But the country had a big party anyway, and the impact that we actually had on our country and our next generation of cricketers, because of the way that we played, the style of cricket that we played throughout that 2015 World Cup, the way that the guys fully immersed themselves in our country and in the event itself. Walking through airports was like there was one big family. It was like a family of 5 million was supporting our cricket team, and I think that impact was greater than whether we lifted a trophy or not. Yes, it would have been nice to have had that ultimate success, but sometimes a team's better than you are on the day, and that was what Australia were in that World Cup final. But yeah, I think I still wouldn't change what happened. Those 7 weeks were, as we kept saying within the team, were the greatest time of our lives, and they certainly were. We had some amazing times, great memories, and the next generation that we'll see come through, who were those young impressionable kids who were probably thinking about playing rugby when the World Cup happened, may now choose cricket, and there's no greater compliment to what you've been able to do in your time as a cricketer if you're able to inspire the next generation to pick up a bat and a ball and want to play cricket for their country.
Tamim Iqbal asked Kane Williamson recently in a chat, and he said, is it true that Brendon McCullum looked at 50-over game as a 40-over game? Because the way you batted, Tamim thought that you looked at it that way. Did you look at 50-over game differently, or did you look at it as an extension of the T20 format?
No, I looked at it as a game of chess at times. It was a matter of you always needed to identify the opposition's strengths and weaknesses as well, and work out some areas where you need to make sure that you were very strong in because they were going to throw their best at you. And then there were some other areas where you looked at and said, if we can attack them in this area, then we may actually be able to really unsettle them. That'll give us our greatest chance. Look, the way I played, it was what our team needed me to do at the top of the order. Was they needed to know that the opposition needed to know that we're going to come after them from ball one, and we needed to try and land that first blow. And I wasn't very consistent at all, and I could have been much more consistent if I had have just dropped the level of risk down a little bit. But I was okay with that because I believed that was the best chance for us to be able to win against the best teams in the world more consistently. We had the best 3-4, I've said it time and time again, the best 3-4 punch our country's probably ever seen, and Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor, guys who could bat for days and operate very consistently. So it needed the likes of Martin Guptill and myself up the top to be very aggressive, and then we had the experience of a Grant Elliott at number 5, and then we had our all-rounders, and we had some gun players after that. So the way the team set up, it needed me to play that aggressive style of cricket, and the best way to have success playing aggressively is to buy into it totally, and that's what I tried to do.
And was it easy to give up wicket keeping, because you were like you were doing quite well as a wicket keeper as well? Was it easy giving up the role as a wicket keeper?
No, it wasn't easy, and it was quite a polarizing decision at the time as well. Back here, I think a lot of people felt that I was picking and choosing what I wanted to do. I loved wicket keeping. It was what I did from the time I was 4 years of age to that time where I had to decide that if I wanted to continue to have a long career, then I needed to do something different. I've since had back surgery, and I had knee surgery and that as well, and I wouldn't have had the longevity in the game if I had have maintained my role as a wicketkeeper batsman. So, the other thing it did, it put me under a tremendous amount of pressure to command a place in the team as a batsman alone, and my statistics before that moment were not that good, and I was lucky enough that there was a vacancy in the batting position at the top of the order straight after I retired from wicketkeeping, and I managed to get a double century in my second test as an out-and-out batsman in India. So that kind of gave me a bit of breathing space, and then I was able to try and work into it. But it wasn't really until the last probably three years of my career that I felt completely at ease with where I was as a player, and I knew my game, and I was prepared to take the success or failure which came with the style of cricket that I was going to.
You could have gone on for another 3 years. In your final test match, you scored 100 of 54 deliveries and broke one of your heroes' record, so Viv Richards. Was that an easy decision? Because you quit when people asking why, rather than why not. That's the ideal philosophy. But having scored the fastest 100 in Test cricket history, you could have gone on for another couple of years.
Yeah, I could have, but the way I played the game, I was fully committed. You would have seen me in the field. I'd dive into advertising hoardings to try and stop one run, regardless of who the game was against, or regardless of how much was at stake, or whether the fact I might be injured and rubbed out of a World Cup. It's just, I couldn't play any other way. That was the way that I led. It was the way that I expected my teammates to play, and that was absolutely how I was going to play. And if I wasn't prepared to do all the hard work off the field that was required to play that way, or I didn't feel as if I could play that way on the field because my body was starting to wear a little bit, then the best thing was to move on. And I wouldn't have changed that again. There was a T20 World Cup which came right on the back of that test series, my final test series against Australia. And a lot of people said, why didn't you go to the T20 World Cup? Whilst T20, I love the game of T20. It's changed my life forever. Test cricket was always my passion too, and the ultimate challenge of you as a player and where you're at in your life and your career was on the field in a test match. And to have that opportunity, I was living in Christchurch at the time, so that was my the location of the final test match. To do it against our arch rival in Australia, and to be doing it as captain of New Zealand, it just felt like the right time to bow out. And I think even the gods would have to agree it was, because what unfolded was something which not many people get, those sorts of fairy tales, and I'll take that one, I'll store it away, and I'll have those fond memories forever. So yeah, I think I got out at the right time, and I also got out with no regrets about the timing that I was moving on. And I think, cricket's going to be a part of my life for the next 20, 25 years. And at some stage, you got to turn the page from being a player into your next role, which at this stage is a coach and also a broadcaster. And who knows where it goes from there. But the game's been good to me so far. But there's still a lot more to achieve in the game, just in a different way.
Last couple of questions. Who was the winner always when you played with your brother Nathan McCullum in the backyard cricket? Who would win regularly?
I'll let you try and work that one out, eh? If you ask him, I'm sure his answer would be completely different to what my answer would be. I actually caught up with Nathan just 2 days back, so it was good to see him. I haven't seen him for a while. He's doing really well in his life too. We always talk about the crazy opportunities that we had. We were only 2 kids in the family, and we used to play backyard cricket and dream of representing New Zealand on the world stage. And we both got the opportunity to live that dream, and not many people get that chance. So we always sit down, share a cold beverage, and talk about the old days when we get the chance.
And how big a role did your dad play, Stuart McCullum, play in inspiring you towards playing cricket?
Yeah, well, massive really, because he was a first-class cricketer in his own right. I think he played 76 first-class games for Otago, and we were always around a cricket ground growing up, and it wasn't so much about him being in the nets with us and throwing balls to us or grooving our technique or anything like that, but it was just the environment that we were brought up in was around a cricket field or a rugby field, and it was just. And the thing I remember most about being young and watching my old man's cricket was not so much what happened on the field, but it was the trainings where everyone's laughing and they're joking, these little competitive games. And even more than that, it was in the dressing room after, where both teams would be sitting down in the club set up, and they'd be having a cold drink, and they'll be laughing and they'll be joking. And that camaraderie is something which just stuck with me forever. Like, that's why team sport's so special, for those reasons. And you do whatever you can on the field, but then you just try and enjoy yourself, carry on with life, be a good person, and enjoy the time. So yeah, I think his involvement was massive from that point of view, that he created that environment and he steered us towards that dream because he was trying to live it himself.
Last question. You are now involved in 2 other sports as well, horse racing and rugby. You turned out for United Matamata recently, and also in 2018. And actually, you started at number 10, if I'm not wrong, for King's High School in Dunedin. That's what I studied in rugby. I'm not too familiar with rugby. So these 2 sports, how close are you to these 2 sports?
Well, I think first and foremost, you need a bit of context, and that's that rugby in New Zealand is like cricket is in India. It's part of our religion. It's what you do when you're born. You're born trying to find the football. Well, that's the whole idea. So our national team, the All Blacks, is obviously the most successful rugby team on the world stage, and every Kiwi kid grows up wanting to be an All Black, and I was no different. I was okay at rugby back in the day, but geez, the game's moved on pretty quick. It was 20 years since I played last, and now I'm getting the opportunity at the ripe old age of 38 to be out there playing what's actually a really good standard of footy. So I'm playing in the premiership team here in Matamata, which has its challenges, but I'm really enjoying it. Again, I like the camaraderie, and we live in a small town. There's only 8,000 people in our town here at Matamata. So rugby is a big part of the community, and it's great to be able to, when in your downtime, to be able to contribute to that community and to get out there and try and do your bit. There's no favours pulled out there, that's for sure. Everyone's sort of out there trying to knock you over, but so far we're going quite good. So that's rugby, and then horse racing. That's a massive passion of mine as well. Here in Matamata, we've got a little 10-acre block where all our horses they live. So we've got some brood mares and some young horses, and we race our horses and we breed, and it's not the most financial of games, put it that way, but it's something that we love, and we hope that one day we're able to breed a champion, and that's kind of always been my vision, is that you're going to try and do something. You're going to do it with the loftiest goal in mind. No different to cricket. We didn't win the World Cup. We had a good time along the way, and I'm sure with cricket, with racing, if we don't breed a champion, I'm sure we'll still have a lot of fun along the way.
In fact, after your first game last week or the week before that, I saw a photo of yours on Twitter or Instagram, where you spoke about being in surgery. And I kind of wondered whether it is related to rugby. But then I read your caption and you spoke about the Brett Lee delivery from back then. Have you forgiven Brett Lee for that, for your visit to the hospital this time?
Yeah, I've forgiven Binger for that one. We're good mates as well. So that was a long time ago. He hit me between the grill when I was playing for Brisbane Heat, a big bash game, and I haven't really been able to breathe out of one side of my nose for like 10 years. So I finally got it done, where I had that surgery on the Tuesday, but then I managed to play rugby again on the Saturday, which was good. But hopefully in the next few weeks I'll be able to breathe a bit better after the surgery now.
Thanks a lot, Baz. It was really fun chatting with you as always. We've been planning this for some time now, but it's wonderful to chat with you. Hopefully we'll meet you soon during the IPL. Hopefully, whether at Calcutta or at Dubai, wherever, we'll definitely catch up. Thanks a lot for giving time.
Pleasure, brother. Take care. See ya.
Take care. Bye.